Okay, so I'm continuing to do some of these ideas I had for you earlier about thumbnails. I thought I'd just make it without my hat. I thought I'd just continue doing some of these. I think there are, because I kind of got something I want to talk about with it, as per usual. Okay, so here is our page so far, and so the gist of it is, for anybody that didn't catch the last stream, what I do is that I'll just type in a random subject, like a TV show title or a film title, onto a search, like an internet search. And then I press images, and what comes up is a whole bunch of little, thumbnails of scenes from whatever that given thing is. Another thing that you can do is, I just got this recently. Lori ordered me this for my birthday, and this is The Creator, The Art of the Creator, and absolutely fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, maybe you want to. And so it has all kinds of designs inside, and so one of the things would be taking these pictures from the film of the little characters here and so forth, and drawing, it's really washed out, anyways, and drawing some of these scenes. That's another approach that you can take to it, but the whole point at hand is that you don't overthink, you don't plan out anything else, you don't have any set notion of how you're going to do a story, like what the plot is, what the concept of it is, any of that stuff. None of it matters. All you're doing is just picking random scenes, okay, and you're drawing images from said thumbnails. And so what that should get you is just a whole bunch of disconnected images. I looked up, what was it? I think it might have been Lost or something like that. And up comes these scenes, and then comes Monsters from another show that's by the same people. Then that goes into the animated Monsters movie. And so I was getting this whole random smattering of images that weren't just one subject or one program. And what's great about that is that it sort of lets you have this ability to not even worry about that subject matter, because it's going to be incongruous. The idea is that you're just exploring making these thumbnails and for something for you to do with them. Now, it said I'm coming back at 7 tonight, and I am. I thought, now someone had sent me a message saying, hey, that was really cool, the thumbnail thing. Are you going to do more of those? I don't know what I'm going to do at 7 o'clock, so I thought I'd just finish these off now. And so I'm just drawing these different images in of random characters. And so the second part is I take these scenes and I draw them, and then I figure out ways to differentiate the planes. And so what I mean by that is I'll take a second value. Okay, so I'm separating this forward information by putting a darker color in behind this red, this big solid value, and that pulls our two characters forward. But I want to push this last little bit back even further. So that now becomes like a gray or an intermediate value. This becomes the high contrast dark. This is the high contrast light. So anyhow, I said, yeah, okay, I got a little bit of time that I can try to do some more of these, and so here I am. Whether or not anybody gets anything from these streams, that I do know for a fact that they help me to grow and to develop creatively, and so if they help other people as well, that's just groovy. But it's just anything. It doesn't matter at what point you are in your journey. it's really important that you keep practicing. It's really important that you keep challenging yourself with further and further development of whatever craft you might have. And it's not going to hurt you. Growth isn't going to hurt you by any means, but if it's going to do anything for you, it's going to further develop whatever skills you have or whatever choices you make. That's not half bad, you know. Like, looking at the small thumbnail, there's this really interesting downslope of a hill these characters are sitting on. There's a really cool downslope in behind them. And I gotta tell you, I like that. That's a neat little element kick in there. So, thank you very much, downslope. You're welcome, Chris. So yeah. Let's take our big thick value and put them through here. And a little bit in. Just spotting in the background there as well. Okay. So as I was saying earlier, if you can take all of these thumbnails that you put together and find interesting things in the images, like here's a character who's off kilter as they're walking along, and well, there's some interesting movement, you know, that I might not have considered had I just sort of been focused on trying to meet some requirement, meet some objective, follow some script. By just free-form drawing panel images, it takes all of that away and allows you to just sort of explore and pay attention to things, notice new things, maybe new ways of drawing scenes, maybe new ways of drawing people. Like here's a garage and behind this guy, parked vehicle. That's kind of cool, you know. It gives some interesting shapes to the composition. Little bush beside the garage, and then there's a pool here. But all of this is in this really keen shape, and then it's got this shadow that cuts across. Oof, look at this. Look how interestingly that divides up the shape, the panel. Let's throw that dark shadow in behind the pool and the tree here. You know, if I could, what I'll do is this. I'm going to show you something I do from time to time, and that is I put this heavy line outside of something in the foreground just to sort of step that off of what's behind it. So I'm constantly doing these sort of approaches to trying to see myself outside of the confines of you know, my own artistic limitations. How can I grow and develop? How can I improve myself? And you know, I've got friends and people I've known a long time, and that there's a degree of growth, and then they've just sort of plateaued, and which is hard, right? But we all do it, and it's important to recognize that while like you might know somebody and you feel like they're sort of at this place where you don't really see, you know, like you're sort of seeing some repetition at this point, and you're not seeing growth. But I promise you've done that too. I promise you that you've had moments where other people have looked at your stuff and went, this kind of seems reminiscent of the last thing I saw of theirs. We all go through those stages. But one way that you can try to encourage yourself from falling into ruts and stuff like that is by regularly trying to challenge yourself with little objective tasks like this. Is there any real benefit or gain out of it? No, probably not. But if it makes you feel like there's something in there that you haven't seen before, or you're looking at some shape language that you're putting down in panels and realizing I wouldn't have considered that image if it wasn't for looking outside the subject matter I normally do. So here's a character who's I think they're in a well or something, or a tunnel, I mean, and just kind of a fun scene because it's got this really great. They're in the dark and they're trying to get out towards the light, but everywhere around them is sort of darkness. I like that. It's very compelling. So why not? Why not try that image? So I'm just going to cover this page. And then I may well copy it and we'll chop it up and put these things in different orders. Why not? See what we can come up with for a story. Now, generally when I'm looking at a bunch of thumbnails like this, I'm not one for cutting up the paper myself. I'm more of a scan it, but have already made a note for myself of this is first, this is second, this one's third, over here is fifth, and that works for me, but it's a bit, it can be a bit impractical if you might make the mistake of doubling up on something and realize after the fact, but generally we get pretty good about noticing those things. Okay, so here's our guy again. We're going to change our perspective of dude down in the pit, and I'll have him looking up. So let's kind of, now we're down below. Now it's not like a cave, it's more of a pit for sure. Spooky, scary, down in a hole. There we go. And we'll give let's push his costume down here. Figure out how we can make it look like it's falling back into the shadow area. Okay, so we'll do just a couple of characters. One's holding the other's hand. One's taller than the other. Yeah, this is just pretty straightforward. And it's just the two of them in a kind of random space. So I'm going to throw down this dark volume and really push the background back. And behind them. And some of those recurring elements of the light areas here, these little light diffusions. I'm going to put the red on those. Just to give some interesting shapes to the background. So it makes you sort of feel like there's something in that shadow area in the background. Here's an interesting framing for a character. It's just somebody off at the side being very introspective. So here we are with that head in the panel, all about capturing that character's emotion, that character's thoughts. And it's just them in the foreground. It's just kind of fun, you know? Anyways, I just thought I'd pop in and put together some of these, and that way it helps to inform people that we're asking some questions about, you know, can you go through and do some more, and that way those people can go back and just watch this, and if that helps them at all. So let's do a big head of somebody who's looking out for the panel and thinking like, what is going on, man? You get the feeling they're peeking around a tree or something, right? We'll just do some random shapes in the background here. Some silhouettes there. What's that F? I don't know. That's part of the fun though. We don't necessarily need to know. I mean, what we really need to figure out is just cool different images. And maybe there's something more important to be found than that. Now, I'm not putting any real hairstyles on people or defining them any more than just sort of random masculine or feminine shape. And in that way, I could just pay attention to throwing down these compositional lines. A couple little ones in the background. Cool horizon line across here. So even though this is white, it sort of sits itself, it looks like it sort of sits itself in the same plane, but because we've drawn less of his body, he's projected far closer to us. That's fun. There's people holding hands. Everybody clap your hands. No, that's clapping hands, I guess. That's not holding hands. So 7 p.m. we'll be back tonight. And we'll be doing something very interesting, I think. Okay, so here's this female character, right? And then we can do a couple random folks in the back. And then we'll throw the little line across the space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the black in on these figures. I'm going to silhouette them out so that we know they're there, but we're going to push them back in importance by doing them as a silhouette. You know, little choices. That's all it is. It's little choice after little choice after little choice. If we got enough space for 3 more rows, That's a terrible line. Don't be overly precious, right? So, here's your, I call this the patriotic stance. Dun, 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 dun. They're looking out to the side. And then by having the character in this sort of stance, it's sort of like saying, you know, I'm fancy, Mr. Fancy Pants. Looking forward to the future. I will be the greatest dodgeball player in the history of mankind. Because I've learned the 5 D's of dodgeball. Dive, duck, dip, dive and dive. Yeah. Something like that. Something like that, anyways. Hi, Linda. How you doing? Hi, Tim. I'm still coming on at 7. I just thought I'd come in and finish these suckers off. Somebody sent me a message saying that they're really enjoying this. I want to see the rest of them. And I don't know what I'm going to feel like doing when, you know, come on at 7 o'clock tonight there. So maybe I won't do these. Okay, so there's our guy looking proud. So this is kind of the gist of it. I just keep swiping through the images and just randomly picking stuff. I like that red, white, and blue colors together. Yeah, well, well, this is a purple actually. This is actually a purple. But any 3 combinations, as long as you have a nice dark line art tool and a good intermediate tool to work off against each other. If you can find that, you're in good shape. Like I also like orange, yellow, and a white surface. I think that works really well. Here's another cool character stance. A stance like this is what I was saying earlier, it tells you a lot about the character themselves. Because if they stand with their elbow leaning on something, if they stand there with hands in their pockets and everybody else going, oh no, you know, then that tells you something about the resiliency of that character or the lack of preparedness of that character, depending on how you're working in the story. So, but there's so many different things we can do with such minimal effort, like a character with their hands in their pockets. Now, this person standing like so kind of gives the impression of, you know, they got a handle on this here town. By gum, by golly, by gee. So there's our back area, and then we'll put. So it's just picking and choosing where you put colors too, right? I just put the red there for the ground, but I didn't bother with in behind. I can zoom in a little bit if that helps too. Yeah, that's a lot better, isn't it? Okay, so here's what we got. All right, I'll just move through the panels slowly. And you can see there's such a diversity of images that, thank you, Linda, that you can come up with all kinds of narrative development, right? So here we are now. Oh, there's all kinds of story we can get out of this stuff. It's just a matter of how one interprets it. And I've said this before, the way that one person interprets it's definitely not the same as the next one. Because you're going to add all your secret sauce. Back ahead. Here's a back ahead. And part of head, part of body. Two perspectives, one panel. Shadow out the background of the one, so that the more prominent opinion that we're listening to is the person who's looking at and talking to them. So we tend to be identifying with this person's opinion because they're facing us. Narratively, anyways. Not always. The person could also be sitting there threatening the person that we're standing behind. Who knows? Let's put them in red. Devil. Devil, devil, devil. There we go. See, that makes it interesting, the red, right? You're right, Linda. That's kind of a nice. This color combination is kind of nice and does the interesting things for us. So here's another character in the foreground. And they're moving towards the camera. Right, with their one arm extending out. I'll have somebody in behind them going, "Hey, what's happening?" Because they're looking this way. Just because I like the idea that this person then is acting on something, and the one in the background is surprised. "Hey, what's going on?" So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to take the red and I'm going to really push the values here back. Here's all these details, but it's almost like there's a thing called a color hold where you can take a composition and divide the front, the forward area, and the backwards area of the composition and do a color hold and take all your black lines from that background and convert them to gray lines, which it just pushes it back a little more in a way, like it just distances it from the foreground. There's an absolutely phenomenal artist who's really very good at this, and I'll show you. Give me a sec. There's a fella named Tommy Lee Edwards who I really respect and enjoy his work. Just gotta find one, folks. Uno momento s'il vous plaît. Why would I find one when I'm looking? Is this Pascal Ferry? Oh yeah, he's good for this too. I'll bring him over. Here we go. Yeah, I got it. Wait a second. That was at the back. Okay, we got something. All right, so here's some examples to show you. Okay, this is using foreground and midground colors in an interesting way. This is Pascal Ferry. I'm going to back the camera up a little bit. Okay, so this is him doing Adam Strange, and the way that he'll draw things, okay, is that take a look at this character walking through a scene. There's all the black is within that character, but the back is washed out because we're meant to be focusing on this character in the foreground. Just like here, see the characters are in dark values, but the background area is all light values with thin lines. I mean, that's a really interesting way to divide the different planes. Dark shadow in the foreground. Here's the complicated lines and shadows in the form, and in the background is just washed right out, just washed out with light. So I like Pascal Ferry a lot, but then there's Tommy Lee Edwards. Now, Tommy Lee Edwards, okay, this is bullet points. Bullet points is a retelling of the Marvel Universe. Now, here's a perfect example of color holds. So he's drawn these two characters on this landing pad, looking up at the rocket ship. Okay? Like, we know he's looking at the rocket ship because here's this big rocket ship on this device that's, holding it ready for liftoff. And the next panel, it's got these two looking up, and she says, Reed, sometimes I think you look at that rocket more than you look at me. And you're probably right. That might not be his voice, but that's what I'm doing. So, but there's a massive color shift in that background. So all of these lines are converted to like an orange value, the black lines. Put the title in the screen so I can do a screen print. Bullet Points. Bullet Points by Tommy Lee Edwards. I'll put his name up here. There's his name, Tommy Lee Edwards. Absolutely fantastic artist. And he's really good at this. Like, he's really good at adjusting your perspective. So here's a hospital scene. And in order to sort of give this sort of subdued sense of characters in this clinical space, these lines are all blue. These aren't black lines. These are blue. There's some black lines in our character here, but the hospital lines there are really dark blue. Just a nice separation from our principal character and the lady he's talking to there. Okay, here's another one. Super Dupes are fighting here, these two fellas, and you can see how dark they are in the foreground, and they've put color holds and turned the black lines to gray lines in the background. Now, I wish I had some examples of his original pencil art. Oh, we got something here. Okay, so here's his process, right? He lays it all out, thumbnails it all out. Then he does line art from that. At the same time, I'm going to pull the camera in a little bit so you can see these. Okay? So he does his layouts. Okay, and then he does his inks right from there. He draws the composition in ink from the layouts. But when he does these layouts, he's also given himself a color palette to work from. Like, look at these interesting choices here. The purple of the guy in the distance, and the same guy, but as we see him in the foreground, he's all glowing orange for the impact of the energy that's spitting out of him. Tommy Lee Edwards, fantastic creator. See, here we go. This guy's in black line art in the foreground, but the spider character is a deep purple line. Yeah, so look up Tommy Lee Edwards. He's pretty phenomenal for color holds. Now, he also does something, and it's really interesting to look him up and see his line work, his original artwork, because he draws in numerous colors. And you'll see what I mean by doing an internet search and looking at his work for posters he's done and Star Wars images and things like that. His line art is all kinds of different colors of marker. And then he does watercolor ink wash over top. Before going into the computer and doing some effects and things like that. Some little additional textures. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But definitely worth investigating and seeing how you can use these different line values to separate different planes in the drawing. So I've got white in the foreground, dark in the middle, and then this complicated gray tone background. So thank you, Linda, moderator with the mostest. Tommy Lee Edwards. He's done all kinds of things. Grendel, Kentucky, 1985, Bullet Points. He's done some... currently, right now, he's working on the final series of Jupiter's Legacy, I think it's called. They tried to make a TV show on that. It wasn't successful. But the comic series has been absolutely... chef's kiss. Okay, so here's another image character here in the foreground, jacket on, and the reason I'm using this darker value in the foreground primarily here is to pull them into your immediate view. I'm going to do some dark values on the midground, and then we'll put some fencing in behind them. Shed or some such. Kind of a neat angle. This shot. Kind of a crazy bunch of angles, that shot. I like it. I like it. Just debating on where to cross a tree line further in there. I think it's just better to push it all back. So I'm going to be sneaky and put darker value in those ones in the front. So, what do I got? 13 images to do here, and then this is all done, and I'll scan it and make it available to people. Just making a bunch of rectangles right now. What are you doing, Chris? I'm making some rectangles. Rectangles. Okay, so here we've got a character who's big shoulder in the foreground. This is a back of head, side of head. And the frame, we'll do one of those here. I'm trying to do different perspectives of characters and stuff as well while we're doing this. I like this repeat of the shapes here as the shoulders are in the same similar kind of an angle. And in the background doesn't matter. So we've got a guy in shadow in the foreground, our guy in light in the midground, and our shadow in the background. Woohoo! Hello to the balcony, says Linda. Okay, so now there's no fantastical elements here. This is really kind of a bunch of people in conversations, and you know, there's nothing additional than that to the compositions here. There's no exciting explosions or anything like that for the moment, but that's okay. That's all right. So this is just, we're gonna do something fun here. I wish I could blend that better, but not that kind of marker. There, here's our background. Whoops, I'm so sorry, I did that off panel. Okay, so let's see, what do we got? Just flicking. Alright, there's something random. So here's put a tree in the foreground, okay, and we'll put another one like so, cutting across our image. We're going to have one here, but right in front of here we're going to have a young person. Hands together. We'll bend the one leg up, so they're moving towards us, and then we'll draw a bunch of bushes and trees around them and through the trees. And in our background, we can wash that out with the red. And that should pull our young man forward and push the blacks on the trees in the foreground. Okay. Let's make that even deeper. There we go. So there's another fun one. Person running through the woods. It's... I'm just generally just always trying different things. Here's a romantic couple holding hands. We're going to put them in front of a bus. Isn't it a beautiful day? It sure is. So here's this vehicle in behind them. And then I'll just move the shape of the vehicle on into the background. It's kind of a different way of constructing an image is to constructing a story is to do it backwards, which is the visuals. But keeps you honest. So the one spot where I've got the head from the foreground character touching the same light colored background, I've got his dark hair. Well, I did a sort of smudge, but it's meant to represent his dark hair, so the only thing crossing over that line is a dark value. So let's do another character close up. So there we go. Here's our character up ahead here, and then we'll put this other person with their backpack, and the backpack person we drew earlier. And let's put all that on their back and have them trying to walk with this heavy load. What does it symbolize? I have no idea. Yeah. So I'm going to put the woodland area in here through lines, just to shake it up and not just have it be a solid. Give some air between the difference, and then we'll put some more complex values in here, deeper values. Push that person back a little bit more. Yeah. Woohoo! When does this crazy amount of party end? So we got a couple faces, two characters here, and we'll put some suggestive language and positioning here. So if I have this one leaning back, I have this one right up to the edge of the frame, and they're looking forward. And their shoulder goes like so they're almost turned around, covering this person who's looking the same way. Hey, what's over there? Hi, there's something over there. Right? So there's the idea that one's behind the other. You know, and we can also do things like this, right? Just to represent that's a halftone image, and then we can put some characters in the background. This is, I should have done a little bit more of these. This is silhouettes of the people in behind, and oftentimes it's hard to remember to do that. They're not important, but they're in the scene, so we can just put them in as a black silhouette like that. I don't know. Okay, let's put doctor and patient. So we got their hands on their hips. Oh, my poor back. And then over here is the bed. There's the little thing that's hanging on it, and here's the person in the bed. And the doctor's looking at the patient going, oh boy. Yeesh, this guy. So I've pushed this value back like so, and then we're going to put some little emphasis in the dude in the bed, just to give you a couple different things to focus on. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm going with all of this. We're gonna, as we're finishing these last few, I'm just gonna talk to you once more about the idea, and the idea is that by doing thumbnails from a random source of information, like pictures from a TV show that you enjoy, or just pictures out of a magazine, and what does that give you? And you're doing your own sketches of this. It teaches you all kinds of things. It teaches you lots about composition and how to put together one, and the character interaction, character personality traits, and ways they move that you can display. And there's just so many different things that you're going to pick up after doing X amount of these that it can't do anything but help you grow. That's not half bad. Being able to grow. It's important we all learn to grow. I had Dune on earlier today as I was, after lunch there when I was getting some work going. And I think something that would help me grow, and if you've seen the new Dune movies, it's they got this whole that's a whole language thing, really deep and baritone-y, and it's just kind of, I think it would help me grow if I learned that to speak in that language. I'm being silly. I mean, largely I just want to walk around going, oh. I say this because I'm in the studio at home by myself, so I can be ridiculous. Here's an old man in the dark. So I'm going for the heavy contrast here. So we'll put the area around him blacked out. And come in here and there we go. What do we got? 4 more images and we're done. Okay, let's do these. Here's the one person sitting, arm resting like so, the other arm like this, and they're leaning on an area, their other leg is out and down. So they're on some kind of bench up against the wall. And then the other person is nodding forward, hands in their lap, and they're sitting in our foreground. So with this image, this could be all kinds of things, right? I mean, this is really up to you here, but honestly, this could be all manner of different meanings. But okay, I'm gonna do a nondescript image of the back. There we go. Oh, hot dog stand. Let's go. I don't know if that's what they're saying. It's what I'm saying. Okay, so here's this one. Is there, if there's anything that you have reservations about taking on and telling as a story, how would I go about doing some interesting panel shapes? This is the way to break over that hump. This is the way to be able to make sense of it. How do I make sense of a story like this before you ever really sit down with your finished panels and just thumbnail it out? It's a good method to really think things out before you're actually applying them to the job. Just don't get caught in the planning and not get on with the actual image. There's the shadow area in the distance. Everything recedes too. I'm going to put this intermediate. Okay, so we've got 2 remaining. So I'm going to do one of these. Here's somebody sitting here gloating. And they're doing it in front of a big old window. And then this way, it gives this really kind of an interesting shape of the character. And then the whole back area works as a silhouette. The entire interior room is just reduced to shadow. And the view is nondescript. Put a menacing light on our character here. It's like Dracula. It's like a Dracula type. And then one more. So, sorry, I did that off panel. I really apologize. So here's one more. We're going to put his nose, his face. Here's his mouth. I'm going to push the shadows on this one. And then we're going to have him falling over. Okay, and then right here in the foreground, "Rawr, I want some potatoes." Or whatever big scary monsters say. And we can put all kinds of fun details into our monster face and have that sell across the scene that, oh boy, scary monster. This is going to be a tough moment, right? In a case like this, the background kind of doesn't matter. See, he knew it was Orange Night. Okay, I'm going to pull the camera back up. Let's see what we ended up with today, folks. So, backing it up. Alright, so here's our full page of all of these little squares. Little rectangles of scenes that we've put together from just looking at random thumbnails. And what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 52. Nice. Nice. That's a lot of panels to be able to pick and choose from and see how we want to put together our story. So there we go. We got that done. Very, very exciting, folks. Okay, I'm going to sign off again, and I will be back 7 p.m. EST, Thursday night, tonight, with old Sneezy Magoo beside me here. Want to say hi?
Hey, thanks for coming, everybody. Right on.
Boy, oh boy, that cat's got a deep voice. Okay, thanks very much to Linda, the moderator with the mostest. And thanks everybody that stopped in. I'll see you at 7 p.m. EST tonight if you're available. Go practice doing some drawing. Try some of these thumbnails. A lot of fun. Bye for now.